Ireland appreciate the support that we have received over many generations, and in particular in respect of the Good Friday Agreement and the peace process. And that wouldn't have been possible had it not been for the support of the international community and indeed our friends here in Canada. So for that, we're very thankful, and hopefully it will continue. Long may the day reign into the future. So Garmil Mayogin for all the support that's been given from the people of here and indeed the Irish diaspora here in Canada. And I suppose to just provide you more of an update of what is happening back home, we've seen quite significantly that the Irish political landscape has changed drastically over the last 100 years. When our island was partitioned in 1921, it was done so that an Orange state was created in the north. And what followed from that was 100 years of unionist domination and indeed direct discrimination against the nationalist community. This led to years whereby we had the civil rights movement in the 1960s, where the nationalist people stood up and demanded equality in terms of access to jobs, to housing, to education. And what followed on from that was the conflict, a 30-year conflict, which lasted on our island until we had the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. For people of my generation, given I was only 6 years old when the Good Friday Agreement was signed, I'm sure Kevin and others were maybe a lot older at that time. But it's easy for my generation, I suppose, that haven't really lived through the conflict to underappreciate the value of the Good Friday Agreement and what it has done for us, because my generation, as nationalists, are no longer treated as second-class citizens, and I have just as much right as anybody else now on my island to take up roles and responsibilities within civic and political life, and that's a huge change that has happened right across Irish society as a result and the benefit of the Good Friday Agreement. But it's because of the agreement being so important that we need to ensure that it's protected going into the future, and that others can't take away the protections that's within the Good Friday Agreement. And when I say to others, I look in particular at Boris Johnson and the British government and what's been happening recently in relation to that. But when the Good Friday Agreement, I suppose, in the Irish peace process was seismic in its own right, the events and the election over recent weeks has equally been as historic. For the first time in the history of the northern state, and just to plant the seed, you have to remember that this state was created so that there would be a forever inbuilt unionist majority for the creation and for the eternity of the state. Now, for the first time ever, we have a nationalist party who's the largest party in the north, and we're going to have Michelle O'Neill, a Republican and a nationalist, as a First Minister. And if you put it into perspective, people like Michelle O'Neill, when I say that Michelle will be a First Minister, she will be a First Minister for all. So whether you're nationalist, unionist or other, Michelle will stand up and represent everyone within our community, and that should be the case going forward into the future. For some unionists in particular, I have to admit that it may be a bitter pill to swallow. It's quite historic what has happened in the fact that they're no longer the majority party, but they must equally accept equality and the fact that nationalists can and will lead. The days of a Protestant parliament for a Protestant people or no nationalists need apply are gone, and thankfully they are never coming back.
Woo!
While we did have a great election and there was a great buzz, I have to say, back in Ireland after the election, unfortunately things became a bit of a stalemate after, with the DUP refusing to enter the Assembly and the Executive. And unfortunately to this present day, the DUP are now holding our complete society to ransom. And I have to say they're being aided and abetted by the British government in doing so. They have used the protocol as the reason not to enter the Assembly, citing the difficulties that there is with it. However, many people on our island have actually benefited from the protocol, which is a result of Brexit and a result of the Brexit which the British government and the DUP had championed, the hardest Brexit possible. We now have the protocol in place to ensure that we don't have a hard border on our island, because nobody wants to go back to the past where we have to have border checks right across the island of Ireland. And the protocol offers those protections. In particular, it offers us trade north-south, east-west into the British market and into the EU. And many businesses have benefited as a result of the protocol. But the DUP unfortunately have not entered the Assembly as a result of it. And again, that's against the democratic wishes of the people living on our island, because the majority of MLAs recently elected to the Assembly were all in favour of the protocol remaining. So the democratic wishes of the people are not being respected. And unfortunately, the British government have given cover to the DUP in doing this. And this is where I call upon now we've called upon the EU, but also international administrations around the world, and I look to some of the politicians here today. We need your support more so now than ever before to ensure that the Good Friday Agreement is protected, and to ensure that Boris Johnson and his partners in government do not take unilateral action to breach international law in removing the protocol. And I know that I've been given many commitments, I have to say, by all of the elected representatives here today, that they will stand over implementing the Good Friday Agreement and international treaties. And for that I want to say Gurmila Mayoga from the people of Ireland. While Brexit has been quite divisive, I have to say, on our island and even in Britain as well, it has brought about change in the fact that many people are now looking at London and realising with the Brexit debacle that the people in Westminster are never going to serve the interests of the Irish people. And as a result, a conversation has now developed, and it's grown in momentum, and indeed right across our island there's a constitutional conversation ongoing length and breadth in each of our 32 counties. There's a healthy debate and conversation among civic communities, and I have to say it's not just within nationalist communities. Many unionist people who were previously perhaps not in support of Irish unity are now reconsidering their position as a result of Brexit. And remembering on all of this, Brexit was imposed on the people living in Ireland. We were dragged out of the EU against our will, and as a result people are now looking towards the EU and realising that in the result of a successful unity referendum we would automatically rejoin the EU. So to people living on the island of Ireland, that is something to look forward to and to prepare for. We have challenged the Irish government to step up to the mark here as well. As these conversations are ongoing throughout the island of Ireland, there isn't really the structure in place, and the governments haven't allowed the conversations to develop so that we can have a healthy debate as to what a new Ireland would look like. And that would have to be inclusive of everyone in the Ireland to feed in their concerns, to feed in what they want to see a new Ireland look like. We've called on the Irish government to establish a citizens' assembly, and basically what that would be, it would allow citizens in the north and indeed the south and the Irish diaspora to come together and to have those conversations about what future constitutional change, what shape that could take in terms of our health service, in terms of education and a range of issues. And we feel the time is right now to ensure that that citizens' assembly is up and running, that people have the conversations and debates, so we don't have a rerun of what we've seen with the Brexit referendum and people didn't know what they were voting for. But it's quite clear in all of this that 100 years on, all the old uncertainties that were there in terms of the Union, in terms of the Orange State, are now gone. The people of Ireland had originally thought that the idea of Irish unity was only now a noble aspiration, as it had been many years ago, but now in 2022 it is a realistic proposition. But in order to secure a unity referendum, and in particular in order to win it, we need to set out our vision, and it's not just of a 32-county republic, it's of building a new Ireland, an Ireland in which rights are guaranteed for each and every citizen, in which respect for all cultures is embraced, and which equality is the core of it all. There is now, I suppose, if you look right across the island, Sinn Féin is now the largest party on our island. And what has happened as a result result of that, in the north, not only are we the largest party, but also in the south, we're actually the largest party as well, and we're continuing to grow right across our island. We've seen that in the recent general election in the south, that there was really what we would call a revolution in the ballot box, where people came out and endorsed Sinn Féin for the positive message in terms of wanting to bring real change for the people. For us and for Republicans, it's not about winning seats or getting a job. We're part of a movement for change, and we're from the grassroots up. We really want to make the lives of all the people of Ireland better, and we feel that the right place for that to happen is within a reunified Ireland. Now we're within touching distance of achieving Irish unity, but we need your support, more so now than ever before. I know Kevin and others here have done great work in terms of getting a petition up and going, and that's a great way of us showing our solidarity and support in terms of Irish unity. We need to continue that support into the future, and we need to ensure that we have the support of our international community, particularly the people here in Canada who've been so good to us over so many years. I have to say it's a very exciting time for our nation. While there is difficulties in terms of the restoration of our power-sharing institutions, it is clear that we're now looking towards the decade of Irish unity, and this is a decade in which we must all seize. There's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come, and for us and for Republicans right across the island, that time for us is now. We must seize it. We are the risen people, and many people who have gone before us have given so much in the struggle for Irish freedom, but we need to all be part of the endeavour. We need to ensure that we can do all we can to see it over the line and to ensure that we build a 32-county republic, which many people before us give their all. I'm going to leave you, I suppose, with the words of Bobby Sands, in which he said that I might die, but the Republic of 1916 will never die. Onwards to that Republic and to the liberation of our people. Bar Bua agus ar Ireland le Céile gur míle mai agad a carta.